Well, now I don't know where to start. I never expected that you would have such an intro for me, but I'd forgotten all that stuff was out in the public. So, yes, I have quite often just put myself aside and said I am not the important person that you need to get a bio about or from. It is the Green Party that needs to be heard from. However, that being said, I will start with a little bit of a bio. Right after high school, I had the great pleasure of working at the Quaker Oats. That was one of my most favorite jobs. I just loved the smell of that place. That should have told me something. When the smell of the place is what captures my attention, that should have told me something. I went off to college and trained for avionics, and then I went to work in the Ottawa Valley. Prior worked at Boeing helicopters. So if anybody is being saved by one of your search and rescue helicopters, I repaired that and basically updated that. How long ago? About more than 30 years ago. Yikes. From there, I went to telecommunications, and then in telecommunications, all those jumps from job to job to job, I was never really satisfied. I loved working tinkering in electronics, but once it became a job, I was never happy with it. So on somebody's suggestion, I went into teaching. And that certainly saved me. I'll come back to my little bit of entrepreneurial spirit. All my entrepreneurial experience is in a failing mode, but we learn a lot from that, don't we? So I got into teaching, but I found there, just as I did in my entrepreneurial spirit, that I don't have that multitasking brain that is so desperately needed in those fast-paced jobs. So I saved myself again, and I went into part-time supply teaching. The best job I've ever had, the most productive, and that's what I want to impress on you, the most productive job I have ever had in that restrictive setting of supply teaching. So there's my bio. Not overly impressive, doesn't inspire, it doesn't display the, what's the word I'm looking for? The energetic type of person that you might be looking for your MP, but that's not where I'm going either. What I wanted to talk to you about, I was trying to think of what I would say, and sure there are policies that the Greens have that are specifically directed to small business. We want to inspire people to move into clean tech. We want to set up incentives and decentives that will get people into the clean tech industry. And I understand that is already happening here in Peterborough, so that's good. We want to change our income tax system. We want to profoundly reform our income tax system, reduce our payroll taxes so that you are inspired to hire more people rather than increase the amount of overtime you have for the people that you already have. We want to stop taxing the things that we want, like income and employment, and start taxing the things that we don't want, like pollution and waste. We waste an incredible amount of energy. Now let me come back now, because that's all I'm going to say about policies. Let me come back now to this point I was making about me being the most productive in such a minor position as supply teaching. I found my little niche. It took me a long time, that long and winding road, but I found it. I am a better person personally for it. I am a more productive person in the community for it. So I want to talk to you about meaningful work. Meaningful work. It doesn't have to be meaningful employment, but meaningful work. On my walk down here, I purposely came down George Street. I passed two panhandlers. The first one, usually I would donate. Usually I would. Almost all the time I will. I didn't know the first two people, but the first one that asked, I went and I spoke to him, but I actually had to refuse because I didn't have any coins in my pocket, and $20 bills, I've got my limit. But I spoke to that person. I gave him that amount of attention. The next person that I passed, quite frankly, I didn't appreciate the way he asked. And then finally, the third person, I said there were 2 panhandlers, but the third person was right outside your door here, a person that I do know, have known, maybe have met and spoken to maybe half a dozen times over the past year and a half. His first name, I know him by, Gary. In the past, he has asked me for money. He didn't today, and he didn't the time before that I spoke to him. And by the way, he signed my candidacy sheets, and that's how we got to know each other's name. But I was down there for perhaps 10 minutes talking to Gary about his frustrations with meaningful work. He has been unemployed, and he's a very well-spoken person. I suspect, like all of us, perhaps his truth is his truth to a certain extent. We all have our own interpretation of the truth. But he spoke well about his experiences and about of course, I don't have the whole information, but the fact that he has been unemployed for 11 years and the fact that there's the infrastructure, the regulations that to some extent take away his opportunities for meaningful employment. So before I run out of time, I do 30 seconds, yikes, I always babble. So to make it quick, I am very impressed with this community for taking on high school students that require meaningful work. I work with special ed students, no frills over here, fantastic work. Co-op students, you give them meaningful work, and that's fantastic. Now we have to pay attention to cleaning up our city by giving those people some kind of meaningful work. I don't know the answer. I'm not saying that you have to solve it, but we do as a community have to get to meaningful work for everybody. Thank you.